Hello and welcome. It's Jen Berkmans here on the Loving Health Journey show. I'm here to guide you, highly sensitive women who are struggling with exhaustion and overwhelm, on how to create your own map to health, wellness, and the energy that you desire. So I'm excited to be back. It's been a while since I've done a video, so I feel the nerves going today, but we're just going to keep going through. I'm just gonna share this in the group here. I hope everyone's having a great Sunday today. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about everything to do with being an HSP, or a highly sensitive person. I'm curious whether you've ever felt that you notice that you feel things so intensely that by the end of the day you feel exhausted. Or maybe you avoid large social gatherings because it leaves you feeling drained and feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you've been told that you're too shy, too sensitive, or too emotional. If that sounds like you, then I'd like for you to stay tuned because this episode is just for you. So today we'll be discussing about what it means to be a highly sensitive person. We'll be going over what it is, what it isn't, why highly sensitive people are so sensitive, and how to know if you might be highly sensitive yourself. So first we'll start off with what it is and what it isn't. So HSPs are born with a trait, which makes them more sensitive, and their nervous system tends to be more finely tuned and more sensitive to stimulus. So this means that they're more likely to notice the subtleties in their environment and be quicker to notice dangers around them. They are often also quicker to enter into a stress state under stressful conditions and also stay in a stress state longer. So this activates the limbic system, which is also the fight or flight system. Their senses tend to be more sensitive, so they tend to be more sensitive to strong smells, irritating fabrics, loud and irritating sounds, and bright and fluorescent lights. So some other facts about HSPs. According to the pioneering work of Elaine Aron, we now know of this category of a person who in the past would have been categorized as either extremely shy, neurotic, or introverted. Now, these categories can also describe HSPs, but they may not, because HSPs can be introverted or extroverted, although the majority, about 70%, are introverted. So the evidence is strong that HSPs are actually born for the most part with these traits. And it also tends to show up, it has shown up in other animal species. So this is kind of cool. It's not just unique to humans. It's something that is seen in other animal species, in dogs and monkeys. And it seems to exist in about 15 to 20% of the population, kind of across the board. And why, you'd think that people being so highly sensitive that they wouldn't survive like over the generations, but the reason that it seems to exist is because it's a survival instinct, and this seems to give the population a greater advantage in actually surviving because they are more sensitive to danger, and they tend to notice the things like the smell of smoke before other people, and so it ends up in the long run saving people's lives. So now that we've discussed what they are, let's go over what they're not. So while HSPs may share similar traits with autism, I've heard this a couple times as a question, why are they a part of the autism spectrum? And it is possible for someone to be highly sensitive and also autistic, but they do have their differences. So HSPs tend to process things very slowly and carefully, which allows them to gain more insight, but it can also make them become overstimulated and to the point where they may need time alone to process what they've been exposed to. And this just gives the brain time to go over all those little subtleties that they've been noticing. Whereas with people with autism, they often have difficulty processing certain information, and they'll always experience chaos unless they completely shut themselves down and can get away from people. HSPs are typically very observant in social situations, but they may not participate. So they do notice the, emotional cues, they know the gestures, they do notice all of these things, but they just may also pull themselves back from social situations. Whereas an autistic person may have the inability to know what certain gestures mean, or be able to identify certain emotions, or participate in social situations. HSPs tend to have a very detailed imagination and a very deep, reflective inner life, whereas autistic people tend to become preoccupied on specific tasks or behaviors. So they're just little things that kind of separate the two. So the next question is, why are highly sensitive people so sensitive? And so, as I mentioned before, they have a highly tuned nervous system. So Elaine Aron breaks this down into an acronym that she created, which is DOES, so DOES. So D stands for depth of processing. Now this is often associated with what we would call intuition. And this is because through our experiences as HSPs, we come into contact with different situations and different things, and it's kind of stored in the back of our mind. And as we go through our life, we start making decisions based on this inner feeling of knowing that it's the right decision for us, but maybe we don't understand why. And so part of that, I do believe, is a gut feeling, but also I think a part of that is just through experiencing things and kind of storing outcomes and knowing what's best for us. We also process things a little bit more thoroughly and differently than other people. And this can allow us to remember details more efficiently and be able to pull a variety of information, like I said before, to make a better decision for us. O stands for overstimulation. So due to the high amount of stimulus and information that we're constantly taking in, this can lead to feelings of overstimulation, which is just that feeling of overwhelm and stress. And this can lead to HSPs needing more time alone and needing time after being out in social situations, or even when in social situations, needing certain tools or ways of doing things to make them feel more comfortable. The E stands for emotional reactivity and empathy. So HSPs tend to feel things very deeply. When they're happy, they're ecstatic, the top of the world, very excitable, very energetic, and when they're sad, they can be very morose and very low. And this can also show up in the TV shows or movies that they watch. When they watch something, they really feel it. So often HSPs will avoid watching very violent or scary TV shows or movies because they feel that so much that it can leave them feeling, it's like a visceral feeling like they're in the actual movie. They're also able to easily recognize how somebody is feeling even if the person hasn't told them. So picking up on the body language and body cues, and are able to deeply empathize with the feelings and emotions of others. The last one is S, so sensing the subtleties, which has also been mentioned in the other depth of processing and overstimulation. So the ability to notice nonverbal communication more efficiently, noticing the details that others don't due to the depth of processing, as well as sorting information into finer distinctions, which can lead to higher intuitive abilities like I've mentioned before. So our last and third point is, how do you know if you're highly sensitive? So there are many different traits, and not everyone will show all of these traits. But if you are highly sensitive, more likely than not, you'll identify with many of these, as I do myself. So some of the personality traits include being really good at noticing small details, being really good at spotting errors and avoiding making errors, having deep and rich inner lives, often reflecting about our place in the world and the meaning of life. Sometimes, at least I've been told in my life, it's almost as if I'm in my own little world. And that's very true. We hate small talk. At least I hate small talk. And we enjoy conversations about deep and intellectual topics. So, sometimes, as I mentioned, that some are extroverts. It's a difference between, when you have that conversation, you hate small talk, right? You don't want to talk about the little things, but you thrive on conversations that have a deeper meaning, and you really enjoy those. Feeling things to a deeper degree. So, as I mentioned with the emotions, when you're happy, you're on top of the world, and when you're sad, you feel really, really deeply sad. Having a deep appreciation for the beauty of life in art and nature and music, being able to see the beauty in the small things. Often HSPs are also highly spiritual, highly conscientious, so the desire to do things well, and that can also be sometimes connected with perfectionism. What else? The strong desire to help others, the ability to know what to do to make other people comfortable. So in, being so aware of what makes us comfortable and really liking to be comfortable, we are also very good at making other people comfortable as well. And like I've mentioned before, being very sensitive to the feelings of others and being able to tell, when something is off or someone is feeling something even when they say they're fine, that kind of thing. There are other things physically and that can show up in health due to different characteristics of being highly sensitive. So one is being prone to blood sugar dips and getting that hangry feeling when we haven't or we missed a meal or gotten too far away from our meal. This can also be possibly connected to the being in a stress state more often, which can, affect blood sugar levels. Being prone to stress and overwhelm, tense muscles, being easily aroused by situations and emotions, which can cause, that foggy feeling, getting shaky and fatigued. Other things such as difficulty sleeping through the night, feeling anxious and overstimulated, being sensitive to allergens, that could be both internally and externally, sensitive to chemicals, and also being very sensitive to caffeine, stimulants, and sugar, and processed foods and refined foods as well, typically. So that basically covers our information. I hope that gives you a good idea of what a highly sensitive person is, and I thank you for watching. I'm curious if any of you are highly sensitive, or maybe you think you may be highly sensitive, and what your experience has been with that. I'd love to hear that in the comments. And if you know of anyone who this might be helpful for, please share. If you have any questions or comments, please put those down below. I do spend most of my time over in my free Facebook group, Sensitive Souls Seeking Change, where I offer monthly trainings, challenges, and support for highly sensitive women. So if you want to connect a bit deeper, please join me over there. You can either type in Sensitive Souls Seeking Change up in the Facebook bar, or you can type in joinOurSisterhood.com up in the URL bar. Next week I'll be talking about the effects that being highly sensitive can have on your health, and we'll dive into what you can do about that. If you're wondering if you are an HSP after watching this episode, you can check out my quiz and gift at www.thellovinghealthjourneyshow.com/quiz. I'll be putting that and the information about my group in the description above the video after we're done. And I hope overall that you have a wonderful afternoon and that you enjoyed this video. Well, until next time, my friends, remember, it's all about loving yourself where you are so that you can get where you want to go. With curiosity and compassion, one step at a time, one change at a time. Bye.